Hello, Tom Barnett here again with another story behind the illustration. Here, one that made it all the way to the Red Team review before it was scrapped and replaced with an entirely different image. Understand, the Dorian Gray reference was always in the title. This notion that America was repeating Dorian's sale of his soul to the devil so he could remain young while only his portrait aged, by turning to immigration to maintain our society's relative youth, thus setting in motion a disparity between our very racially homogeneous past and our decidedly multicultural present and future. So, with that title, not surprising that I proposed in the first completed draft something along the lines of this classic rendering of the famous novel by Oscar Wilde. Dorian in the foreground, forever young, if, disturbed, while his portrait grows more decrepit by the day, in part due to his licentious ways. But as much as I wanted something like this, that suggestion apparently fell on deaf ears. Sarah Nuttall's first conceptuals were, from my perspective, far off the mark. For example, here we were again dipping into the race metaphor, which kind of lost me in reference to Dorian Gray. Here also, a rather abstract image, in my opinion, hard to decipher. Understand, this image was going to appear inches away from the title that had the words Dorian Gray in it, so I was pretty much hoping for something that directly referenced that literary reference. Jim Nuttall's first attempt went in another direction, almost as if a society was climbing up this hill representing its median age as it shifted older over time. And I kind of like that. I thought that was kind of very, cool. But my main problem was the repetition of the imagery of Shakespeare's concept of the ages of man, baby to old guy, that transformation. We had already committed to using that on another thread, and I just didn't want the repetition. But with everything going on and various deadlines approaching, I did not press the issue. So Jim's second iteration of this image made it into the revised manuscript submitted to Ben Bella. We even went so far as to have Jim finalize it for the Red Team review. And it was then where I, to my own surprise, rebelled and demanded a complete do-over, which I didn't do for anything else in the entire book, because in general, my communications with Jim and Sarah Nuttall were great. There wasn't really a comms problem here. I just let my opposition to this image stay buried until the last minute when I realized yet again this image was going to be in direct conflict or have no attachment to the Dorian Gray reference appearing just an inch or so above it in the book. So I asked for, as it says in the note there, I asked for my white guy looking at a non-white person, which meant we went back to the drawing board. Sarah Nuttall's first attempt at a conceptual got us started, but it wasn't capturing the racial makeover aspect. Jim's first take on Sarah's suggested approach moved us closer. On the left, you have this, to me at least, suggested Latino male in a soccer jersey looking at a really old white guy. On the track, the right track, but it's still a bit generic. Here's where I really stepped in. I've long had a man crush on NBA point guard Drew Holiday, who then was with my cherished Milwaukee Bucks during their championship run. If I could have made a deal with the devil in high school, a Dorian Gray-like deal, to steal somebody else's skill set in return for my soul, it would have been Drew Holiday's. I just think he's a lovely player, and I really enjoyed his time on the Bucks. And yes, that bromance has cooled considerably since he was traded to the hated Celtics. Still, it was my request that the young male looking into the old white guy's portrait be a basketball player modeled on Holiday. I really wanted a basketball player because to me that's the most international of the major sports in the United States in terms of having lots of foreign players, even more so than hockey. Jim delivered nicely in what I believe was his one and only third version of a proposed illustration, here gladly approved. Details, he got the hair just so, something that matters to this father of two African American females whose hair I spent years braiding until it got too hard for me. And yes, I have done that exact look for my daughters on multiple occasions. The Team USA jersey seemed appropriate, representing the nation, and I was really happy with the basketball call out there. The number 44 references both Obama and the year 2044, often cited as the year when whites dropped to majority-minority status. His tattoos are full of signaling on the multicultural front. See if you can spot the Lady Gaga song. Finally, our old white guy in the portrait is clearly rendered as yet another version of Uncle Sam, who appears throughout the book in various guises. And that gets us to the final book version. Quite a journey. The only time I asked for a complete redo, but ultimately an image in sync with the literary title reference, and one that I think is full of all sorts of subtle meaning. And that's the end of this story behind the illustration. As always, we love it when people buy the book, when they recommend the book, when they praise the book online. I and my Throughline colleagues, we feel very passionate about this work. Please consider subscribing to my Substack newsletter, and see you next time, next illustration.